good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Life has gotten interesting. There's a new person in your life, and you're trying to help them. You're trying to help them to get to that next level in life, trying to save them and help them get through their problems. Many of us are living our life where we're saving someone else. We're trying to save someone, trying to help them, trying to rescue them. And many of us began to be saviors at a very early age, and it became second nature to us to want to save other people that we come into contact with. People that their problems look massive to them, but we can solve them quite easily. It doesn't look that hard. And so we want to help. And so when we become the savior to somebody, we meet somebody, and for a lot of you men out there, you're meeting those damsels in distress, right? A lot of you women out there are meeting those men that they just need a help. They just need a little help. They need a little encouragement, you know. And you get to that point where you see all their potential. All of their potential is right there. Amazing potential. And you say, I'm going to help this person see their potential. I'm going to help this person live their true life. And I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to be the hero. And, you know, it feels good, right? When we help other people, it feels good. And there's some help that's just awesome. It's the right thing to do. We're taking care of our fellow men, our fellow women. We're doing the right thing. And it's interesting, though, how I find that a lot of folks get into relationships, in romantic relationships, right, where one person is the savior. One person's there to help at all costs. One person's to alleviate the problems, take out the strain, do what's needed. And you just find yourself as a natural helper, right? And you're looking at the person that you believe needs saving. And you're seeing them and you're like, oh, what a sweet little angel. What an amazing man, just needs help. And, you know, when you look at their problems, you know, you see their problems and you see solution exceedingly quickly. Okay, so you're looking at their problems. You know, maybe they have a problem with saving money, or they're losing this, or they can't get a job, or whatever it is, or, you know, they went through a childhood, you know, raised by parents that didn't show love, maybe a little bit of a drug addiction problem, or maybe an alcohol addiction problem, right? Maybe a gambling addiction or a sex addiction, whatever. And you go, you know what? I can help this person. I can help them find who they are. I can help them find their true identity, and I'm going to be there through the process. And I find it interesting how, one of the things that I find interesting, first off, before I go into the other thing that I find very interesting, the first thing I find very interesting is the fact that other people's problems always seem simpler to solve than our own. And, you know, I've asked myself, why is that? Why is that? And I think the answer to that question is everybody's problems outside of self looks easier to solve than our own. And we want to solve other people's problems because it looks easier and we feel like we gain value out of it. You know, like we become the hero, right? And what's the other reason why we want to solve other people's problems? Well, it's kind of the same reason as why if you're working from home one day a week and you're supposed to get a big report done and you're looking at the massive amount of work that you have to do for this work report that you have to put together. You got to put together 100 slides for a board meeting, right? And you got to put it all together. And you're like, you know, I'm working from home and I really need to do the laundry. That laundry really needs to be taken care of. It's a pile of laundry. You know what? I'm going to take a quick break from this presentation, and I'm going to do some laundry. And then you get yourself doing the laundry, and then guess what? You see, well, there's some dishes in the sink. I need to take care of that. And you know what? I haven't really vacuumed that much. That cat hair is all over the place. I really need to take care of that. And hours go by, and you haven't worked on the presentation. That's called procrastination, right? We know that that's called procrastination. That's what that is procrastination. And so on a bigger level of procrastination, on a larger level, right? Not just the laundry or vacuuming out the cat hair. On a larger level, we look to other people's problems to solve, right? So let's take the presentation and take out the presentation for the board meeting, boom, and put in our own codependent issues based on our family upbringing and the fact that we don't feel love and we don't have unconditional love for ourselves and we got our own issues. Okay, stick that there, and then on the sidebar, instead of the dry cleaning, the laundry, and doing the dishes, you put someone else's problems. Okay? That's what that is. But it's in a very intricate design. Because in no way is putting off the presentation for the board meeting and doing the laundry heroic. Okay? Nobody's going to call you a hero for washing your dirty undies. It's not going to happen. Nobody's going to sit there and give you a Medal of Honor for washing those. Okay. However, there's a different strategy when we think about helping other people. And some of it is very altruistic, giving to the poor, donating time at the soup kitchen, giving your time and talent to the SPCA or other animal rights and non-kill shelters. Very powerful stuff. Okay. But I found that we go overboard when we deal with folks that we are in love with or in lust with or wanting to get with or whatever it is. We go overboard. Okay. We meet somebody and there's all these feelings and emotions and I mean, I don't have to add all this together. You know what I'm talking about. And you get in these relationships and this person really like they have some problems. And instead of thinking, they have some problems, I really like them as a person, but they got to go through some stuff, and you know what? They're going to need to work on themselves, and then maybe after that we can have a relationship. Instead of that, what do? Who cares? Forget all these red flags. Don't worry about it. Let's jump right on in. Right? Let's get it. Let's go on. Let's make this happen. I can solve these problems pretty quickly. Let's figure this out. This person has potential. And we don't just do it in love relationships. We do this in family dynamics, right? We see our brother or our sister going through a tough time. Maybe they made some bad decisions. Maybe something bad happened. And we start trying to run their life for them. We start trying to show them what they need to be doing, right? We try to be the hero instead of actually, focusing on our own problems and growing up our own selves, right? It's very interesting how we can begin to want to take over someone else's life, right? Because we think we know better. And I'm not saying that we always don't know better. There's times that we definitely have the solutions and the clarity to give and to offer these solutions and clarity. But the funny thing about it is these aren't our problems. That's what's so funny about it. These are not our problems. These are someone else's problems. That's why they're so easy for us to solve, right? And we're not thinking about their emotions. We're not thinking about how they feel. We're not thinking about the stuff going through their head. We're not thinking about the negative broken record that they've lived with for their entire life. We're not thinking about any of that. The problem seems very cut and dry, and the solution even more cut and dry. And we're going to implement this before midnight tonight. My gosh. And I'll be honest with you. I've been in that position before too, where I say, you know what, this is going to be easy. We're going to fix this person, and we're going to have a great life, and everything's going to be happy ever after, and this is going to be awesome. And then 9 months later, all hell has already broken loose since like the third week. I'm 9 months into this thing, and it is a catastrophe. It is not only a thorn in my side, it is everything. It is my end-all, be-all. It is part of my breath. This is what I deal with on a minute-to-minute basis. Everything else in my life has taken a back seat, right? I'm no longer part of my own life. I'm actually just the solution maker for this person, which I haven't really helped with any solutions. And we find ourselves even more and more in this situation. I'm still trying to be the savior, but getting no gratification out of it. My own life is falling into the toilet, right? And I see it, but I don't, because I don't really want to see it, because this person's problems are so exaggerated. You see what I'm saying? So it's always a very interesting thing. And we'll talk about exaggeration of problems and mirroring just a little bit later on in the show. But, it gets out of control. And we start kind of going down that slippery slope and just, okay, I can keep giving, I can keep giving, I can keep giving, I can keep giving, but there's no end in sight. And all of a sudden, one day you wake up and you realize you don't really know who you are anymore. You really don't. You start identifying with the other person. You're now John's, you're now John's girlfriend or Anna's boyfriend or whatever. Now you become their identity because you have so much time spending thinking about their stuff and working on them, you haven't even began to think about you. And this situation applies to any time we try to be a savior to someone, whether we're trying to save our mom, our dad, our sister, our brother, or a love interest. It's the same thing. And we'll talk about how that happens and how to break that cycle later on in the hour. Also, don't miss Copper Dallas and Dr. Ed Cara will be in studio, and Reggie Harvey will be in studio later on to offer his perspective as well on this concept of being a savior. If you haven't already, go to ashleyburgess.com, Ashley, BERGES.com. When you get there, you can find the links to Facebook, Instagram, all the social medias, as well as YouTube and Amazon Prime, and the list goes on. Stay tuned because Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. We'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives. Now, here's Ashley.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, I'm asking you the question, who are you trying to save? Why are you trying to save them? And have you ever thought about trying to save yourself? A lot of us are trying to rescue someone. We're trying to save them. We're trying to save them because they need help. And we see their problems, and their problems are, their problems. And we can see them, and we believe that they are easily solved. A lot of the times we see someone's potential, right? We see the potential of how great they are, and if we can just remove these stumbling blocks out of the way, their life could be absolutely amazing. And I'm not saying that that's not the case. I think that it can be. But why is it that we feel like we need to be that person? Why do we need to be the Cape Crusader to go and help this person overcome their issues, save them from themselves, and then live happily ever after? I find that we do this more often than not when it comes into romantic relationships. When we meet someone, we fall in love, and we want to help them. This is like the thing from A to B. We say, we got to help this person. This is it. I got to help them at all costs, and it's, for a lot of men out there that, you meet the woman, she's the damsel in distress, right? And, a lot of women out there, you meet the guy, he's great. He's got all this. He's got charisma. He just needs a leg up. He just needs some help, And so we end up finding ourselves in that situation, and it can be really, really challenging because we kind of miss the boat in certain situations, right? We want to help other people. Their problems seem easy to solve, right? And you remember that analogy I gave earlier in the first segment of the show before we went to break, and I was talking about how we have that big presentation we got to do, and it's one day we're working from home. And instead of working on this big presentation, what do? We end up doing the laundry. We end up doing the dishes, you know what I'm saying? And what is that? That's called procrastination, right? That's what that is. It's called procrastination, right? Well, substitute, the big report that we have to do, right, with our own life. And then for the dishes and the laundry, substitute someone else's problems, okay? And what happens is instead of looking at our own problems in life, instead of taking our own problems head on, what do? We look at taking someone else's problems head on. I can help this person out. Oh, it's not a big deal. I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to execute that. I'm going to get this done. And sooner than later, she or he's going to be fine. Everything's perfect, and everything's going to be great. Okay? And it's interesting because we lose sight of our own life. We don't know even where to draw the line because it's different when you're giving back to charity. It's different when you're doing your part once a month at the food bank. Okay, once a month at the food bank for 5 to 7 hours isn't getting your whole life off of task and literally changing the trajectory of your life. Giving back time and talent to a non-kill shelter by taking care of the dogs that need a home or the cats that need a home, that's not changing the trajectory of your life. That's not getting in the way of you being able to live your true life, right? It's actually probably helping you. But when we allow someone else's life to take over our life, we lose focus of our own life, right? We lose complete focus. We get completely sucked into their life, under the guise of being the hero, the savior, we get enmeshed into this relationship. We've probably done this more often than not in many of our relationships, okay? We don't see the cycle. We don't see the pattern. Many of you that are listening to the show right now were the savior to a parent of yours. Maybe you were always there to help mom. Maybe you were always there to help dad. That was your contribution. And you saw that to be the way that you actually got respect and love of some sort, right? And so we go through our life, and the next thing you know, that's second nature. I'm going to take care of this person because that's what I do. Now, I understand cycles. I understand patterns. I understand how old habits die hard. But, I think you owe it to yourself to understand why this habit started in the first place. And we're going to talk about that because that's one of the biggest things that we got to think about. That's one of the biggest things out there that we got to challenge ourselves to think about. And, when I talk about this, it's to help us have a well-rounded life, for us to tell the truth to ourselves. And, health and wellness is so important. And not just like health and wellness of mind, but also, the health and wellness of our body. Joining me live in studio, Copper Dallas. Copper is the owner of Body Lounge Park Cities and the clinical director. And joining her is Dr. Ed Cara. Dr. Ed is the non-surgical sports medicine specialist and co-owner of Body Lounge Park Cities. Great to have you both in studio today. How you doing?
Great. Thank you for having us. We're happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
It's great when we talk because I love what y'all are doing, and I respect the whole process that y'all went through to create Body Lounge Park Cities. So tell me, when we create something new and we have these ideas and we create something that's really functioning and really cool, how did y'all come up with this concept, and how did you figure out what to put in this and make Body Lounge what it is today?
Well, I think we took an approach around what is our experience when we go to see the people that we trust with our health. So when I go to the doctor, what do I like to experience? And we try to take that and make a boutique wellness clinic that people know that we care about them. They know that we are going to do everything we can to provide ultimate service and have a welcome, comfortable environment.
A welcome, comfortable environment is a good thing. And definitely when you feel like someone actually takes care of you and actually looks through it. Because I think a lot of times when we go into certain places, and I'm not generalizing, but it's like they really don't know you. And they don't really know you as the person. And I think that, so y'all are really catering to the individual, knowing their background, have the panel, even the blood panel, whatever they have. And then you're looking at the whole person from that type of bird's eye view.
Yeah, we do the best we can with looking at the information that we can gather. And so we try to take everything into consideration. Their activities at work, their activities at home, their activities in what they do for fitness. What is their stress levels? How are they sleeping? Are they meditating? Their nutrients, both macronutrients like protein, fat, and carbohydrates, but also micronutrients like vitamins and minerals. So we try to take a whole body approach in a very comfortable, relaxed boutique environment.
So that's kind of how we approach things in the clinic. And on top of that, we genuinely care about every person that comes in, and I can say that sincerely. We do want you to come in. We want you to feel good. We want it to be a warm place where when you're there, you feel good, knowing that you're getting taken care of, and you're enjoying your experience. So that's kind of the approach we take within the clinic. And so far, so good, I guess.
So let me ask you, when somebody comes in and they're kind of new to the regiment, do y'all basically kind of walk them through all the processes and all the opportunities that you have there?
It depends. A lot of times when people are coming in, they're in pain and they just want to cut to the chase. They just want to get in and see Ed. And, Ed and I are both there every single day. We're the people who are greeting you, and Ed's treating you. And we want to make sure that everything is set the way you want. Now, eventually, if you're coming in with pain, that's what you're getting treated for. And then along the way, we can introduce you to other things. And all of our services really, they intermix with each other in one way or the other. Nutrition, it could, relates to weight loss or vitamins and nutrients. And then vitamins and nutrients, equate to anti-aging and skin. And then everyone, has an ache or a pain, or they're preparing for a surgery, or they're recovering from something. So there seems to be, which is how we wanted to create it, we have some sort of a solution for all of these things that we have, all of us, every day.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when you think about the amount of people that suffer with shoulder pain or back pain, or are trying to get back to the CrossFit box, or starting to train for a half marathon or even a 5K. And they're trying to be active, but they don't really know how to do it. Or they're having pain or irritation, and they don't know who to go to. It's kind of a place where we can provide guidance that it's not, your condition's not surgical, or it's not something that's going to require hospitalization, but you're not exactly sure where to go. We're a really good place to start, because even if we can't treat the condition or the problem, or we can't figure it out, we're gonna give you a solution of where to go to find a solution.
Dr. Ed, where can we find more information about you and Copper?
Go to our website. bodyloungeparkcities.com is a really good place to get an idea. And you can also reach out to us anytime with questions to see if we can help you.
Well, I look forward to having you all back in studio next week.
Thank you for having us. We look forward to it as well.
Thanks so much.
And I love that Dr. Ed made the comment about solutions, because this show is all about solutions. If you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that Live Your True Life Perspectives is all about finding the solutions to the issues we deal with, no matter what they are. And so when we return, we're going to be talking to Reggie Harvey. Reggie's going to offer his perspective on the situation, and later on we're going to talk about things you can do to change the situation and to make it right. Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Who are you trying to save in your life? Why are you trying to save them? Have you thought about yourself? Oftentimes we tend to want to rescue other people. We want to help them. And I know that in my own life, I've tried to do that myself. I've tried to save someone, help them, be the savior, be the hero. And eventually I realized it wasn't working. I couldn't change their life. I couldn't make them make choices that I thought were good. Their problems seemed a lot easier than my own issues. I could see solving their problems easier, but all the information that I gave and all the support that I was giving often came or fell on deaf ears. And I tried, but then I had to begin to realize, why was I doing that? What was the reason for me to do that? Obviously, I cared, but I knew that there were more reasons. Like we were talking about right before the break, talking about why we choose to rescue and what that is all about is very powerful, because it actually shines a light into our life and allows us to understand more about why we're doing things, but better yet, how to take care of our own issues. Joining me in studio today, Reggie Harvey. Reggie is the author of the most recent book, Anatomy of a Patient. He's also a wonderful friend of mine, and he's also the survivor of a near-death illness. Reggie, great to have you in studio today.
Great to be here, Ashley.
I've been talking about rescuing and, how we have a tendency of wanting to rescue others, be the hero, be the savior. And we were talking right before break about this. You've dealt with this in your own life. Tell us a little bit about that, Reggie.
Well, in Chapter 7 of my book, Anatomy of a Patient, actually in the first part of that book, I revisit my relationship with key people in my family from whom I drew a lot of knowledge and strength. And in Chapter 7 of that Part 1, I devoted it completely to my sister. Now, my sister was 8 years older than me, and she was actually brilliant. She had an IQ of something like 170. She was a concert pianist. She was a really sweet person, but gullible as all heck. There was a traumatic incident that happened to our family in 1962. And I didn't fully understand what had happened until I actually started writing this book few years ago. But in 1962, when my sister was 15 and I was 7, she was the victim of a statutory rape. The whole family actually ended up being a victim of it. I was a little too young to really fully understand what was happening, but I remember the event where everything sort of blew up and my parents found out about it. I didn't really understand what was going on, but it was just like I had seen an old movie, and it was just forever burned into my mind. 30 years later, while I was sitting in my office late one evening, for some reason this popped into my head that it wasn't just my sister that had been assaulted, but it had been my entire family. And what I realized is that in 62, we never talked about it. Families didn't talk about those kinds of things. She was snatched away from public school and put in a special home for unwed mothers. Her baby was taken away from her and given up for adoption. She was told never to talk about it, and I didn't know all of this was going on at the time. But once I got into college, we had an opportunity to rebuild our relationship. She was living in Minnesota, and I went up and visited her for the summers, the first 2 years of my college training. And I realized what a wonderful person she was, but I didn't understand why she always ran away from success. About 10 years later, she moved from Minnesota to Dallas. And so I welcomed her to stay with me. It would be an easy way for her to establish herself, build her credit, and all this sort of thing. And at every turn, everything I tried to do for her, she just fell off the wagon. And I won't get into all of that. It's in the book. But I was confused as to why my efforts kept falling on deaf ears. I got apartments for her, furnished them, paid her bills, put her in them. I got her jobs. She performed brilliantly at those jobs, and then suddenly she just wouldn't show up. What I learned through this experience actually, when she died in 2009, we had been estranged for about 10 years because she was tremendously codependent. And I thought the best thing that I could do for her was just to force her to deal with her own issues. I'm not saying that was a perfect decision, but it did help to some extent. But what I learned at the time of her death and starting to analyze all that is that I was never really prepared to save her. I didn't really understand how I had been injured, or how our entire family had been injured, or how the whole society between the 60s and the Roe v. Wade situation had ostracized so many young women in our society and forced them to bury the fact that they had given up children and had been assaulted, and where the males in our society were celebrated for being players and all this, women were just subjugated to all sorts of psychological trauma. None of this I had any clue about at the time, but once learning that, I realized that even my best intentions to sort of make life better for her, I was not prepared. I didn't have the information. I didn't know how to have the conversations with her. I wasn't a therapist. I wasn't. There were too many issues, and I think the whole idea of me really wanting to rescue her or save her was not really to help her. In another way, it was some sort of twisted idea that she was gifted and intelligent, and that the Harvey family needed to be always showing a concerted front, and it was time for her to take on her role in the family, and it had nothing to do with her pain, her anguish, or any of that. And I'm really embarrassed now to realize that I squandered the last 10 years of her life. I wished I had just been there to listen. That would have been much more helpful if I had realized I just needed to be there for her. I needed to be a touchstone for her. I needed to let her deal with her own issues, seek her own help. And what I didn't realize, Ashley, is that I was so self-absorbed in protecting or sustaining a family image that I really did not ever have her best interest at heart. As well-intentioned as my efforts may have been, my efforts to rescue her or save her were did not have her well-being in focus. And I'm deeply sorry about that. And I would counsel people to be very careful when you get this urge to be the savior figure. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just be available to people, to hear them, to not judge them, because you may not fully understand what they're struggling with and what they're going through.
Powerful perspective, Reggie. I love that because it's so true and it's so poignant. Where can our listeners find out more information about you?
Well, you can go to my new website, which is reggieharvey.net, ReggieHarvey.net. There you can find out a little bit more about me, my struggle with renal failure and my triumph over renal failure. You can also find links that will allow you to navigate to Amazon.com, where you can pick up a copy of the book. And then there's a new blog section that I'm building out that chronicles some of the past conversations that you and I have had this year.
I love Reggie's perspective. And you see, it can happen with anyone, family, sister, brother, mother, father, love interest, whatever. We have a tendency of ignoring ourselves, right? We put ourselves off. We procrastinate ourselves in our life, right? We get in thick in someone else's problems, someone else's issues, and we lose sight of our issues, and we actually lose sight of our own life because we're trying to help them out, and we're actually putting ourselves on the back burner. Most of us don't even realize when we're doing it because we've done this so long and in so many different relationships, we aren't aware of the cycle that we're living through. And, I was thinking about this the other day. We're here for a reason. We're here to learn about ourselves. This relationship with ourselves is the most important one we're ever going to have. And when we don't reflect on that and take that seriously, if you think about it, it's just really sad because we're missing the point of being here. We're missing the point. And that's the thing that I want us to think about, and I'm going to be giving you some suggestions and ways of being successful and ending the cycle in just a few moments. But I want you to think about the power of that, to realize that this relationship with ourselves is the most important one. And when we neglect that, we actually neglect the whole reason for us being on this planet. Like, we negate the reason, and we're not even finding the real reason. And so that's what I think is extremely important. Stay tuned when I return to me talking about how we can find actual solutions to overcome the situation and actually end that cycle. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
You could be my luck. Get in here. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, I'm talking about being the savior. Who are you trying to save? Why are you trying to save them? What about yourself? We want to rescue other people. We want to rescue someone. We want to take care of someone else's problems because what? Because their problems seem simpler than ours. And what happens in this situation is we ignore our own self. We put ourselves on the back burner. We don't face our own problems, right? Because remember, their problems seem easier, which means that we know somewhere deep down that we have stuff that we got to deal with. But we'd rather deal with someone else's because we don't want to really look at our issues. We want to ignore the issues. We don't want to deal with it. We want to put it off and procrastinate it. Part of us don't even realize how valuable we are as a being And so we don't even see the reason why we'd want to work on ourselves. But most of us feel like the work that we have to do on ourselves is so overwhelming. It's so overwhelming, so time-consuming. You don't even know what you're going to find if you do it, that it scares the living poop out of you. Okay, so you're like, I don't want to do this. I would rather deal with someone else's problems. So they become the great distraction in our life, and we get distracted, and we're trying to save them, and we're doing all this stuff, and we're just all over the place trying to save this person, and we really are neglecting our life. We're not living our true life anymore. We're on the sidelines of life. We're living this person's life somewhat. They haven't really even asked us to live their life. And it's funny because a lot of times when we save people, they normally don't even ask to be saved, right? We just kind of take that on as our royal duty. One of the things that we don't realize is that that person that needs to be saved with all the problems and all the issues, okay, all that person is really a mirror to us. But we're not seeing the mirror clearly. Usually, other people's problems and their issues seem like a funhouse distorted mirror because we look at them and we go, man, they got a lot of problems. You know what I mean? Woo! They got some problems. But, I can help them. When we look at ourselves, when we equate ourselves with these situations, and we see ourselves as having it pretty much together. And so we can't even understand how many problems this person has, right? But we're going to take it all on. But we don't realize that the mirror, the actual mirroring that is taking place right now, the mirroring that's taking place is not about the multitude of problems or their problem being similar to your problem or you having the same problem or the same issue. It's the fact that both of you have issues, right? And that other person just is reflecting that to you, that they need to work on themselves and that you need to work on yourselves. Isn't that funny? Yeah, I made you the plural, yourselves. It's true, though. We don't realize that when we see someone and someone comes to us with problems in their life, they're actually mirroring us because when we have problems in our life, that's just kind of how we attract people, right? We attract similar people going through similar situations. That's the reality. That's the mirror right there. That's from A to B. So what do we do? First off, you got to actually see that. You got to be aware. You got to be mindful. You got to realize that. And I think all of us can agree that there are things that we have to take care of our life. I think all of us agree that there's issues that we need to rectify. I think most of us agree that we don't, we haven't really found our true calling. We don't really completely understand ourselves, and we need to work on that, right? One of the biggest things that I began to work on about 18 years ago, even actually more than that, was I realized that I had an issue in my life, is that I didn't unconditionally love myself. And I didn't appreciate myself, and I didn't completely accept myself. So I was looking for acceptance from all these people around me, right? And one of the ways that I got acceptance was to help other people, to save them. I felt like I was accepted that way, okay? And so I got great power or good feeling from that, even though it wasn't real, but it made me feel better about myself, and it gave me that fuel. But it wasn't lasting fuel because we can't save someone our whole life. And a lot of times when we try to save someone, that person will turn around and begrudge us and be upset with us and resent us. And we don't understand why, but a lot of it is the fact that we never let them live their life. We took over their life. We got in the way of their living. Instead of letting them do what they need to do and say, hey, I really hope things work out for you and let's see what happens in the future or whatever. Or if it's a sister of yours, hey, I know you know how to live your life, and if you need help, come talk to me. But if you don't, I'm going to stay out of your business because I know that you can handle this, whatever it might be. These are really important, valuable lessons we learn, but we got to break the cycle. And one of the ways that we break the cycle is to stop being afraid to know ourselves. Stop being afraid to know thy. Okay, we've got to begin to accept the fact that the most important relationship in our life is with us, with ourselves, not with every person on the planet. It's good to have unconditional love for other people. That's what we're supposed to do, but we have to have it for ourselves first. Otherwise, it's not unconditional love. Otherwise, it's something else. Okay, you can only give to other people what you already have. You can't give to somebody something you don't have. Like, if I'm going to loan somebody money and I don't have any money, I can't give it to them to loan money, right? I have no money to give. That's the key. So if you don't have unconditional love, you can't give unconditional love to somebody else. You're going to instead give them conditional love, the stuff that most of us were raised around. And that conditional love was based on what have you done for me yesterday? Whether it's like you made me look good because you played great in that baseball game and you won and I feel good that you're my son, or you got good grades, or you mowed the lawn, or whatever it was. Most of it was conditional because your family, your parents were raised in family dynamics that were conditional as well. And so most of the time, the unconditional love we think we're giving out is all conditional love. I mean, heck, if you don't believe me, look at the difference between your love and the love that your dog has for you. Okay? There. Point made. My point was clearly made. Okay? So that's the key. And so we're looking to save these people because we're wanting their love, when in reality, what we really need is our own love. And so we have to stop ignoring ourselves. We have to stop ignoring the importance of the relationship with ourselves and realize that that relationship is paramount to all other relationships, period. If we get us right, if I get me right, and I unconditionally love me, and I accept myself, then I can do that for other people. But if I get myself wrong and don't do right by me, I can't do right by other people because I don't have it. You can't give what you don't have. Okay, and I want you to think about that example with the dog too, because I think it was very poignant. And so think about that. That's why we end up saving other people, is to try to get their love, their acceptance, when in reality we need to let people live their life, make their choices, save themselves, because nobody can save you. You need to focus on saving you, focus on you, and also realizing the value of your own relationship with you is of the utmost importance. So give it some time, some effort, and actually spend time with you, getting to know you. I hope the show has helped you. Please share it with your friends and family. And in the meantime, live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 3 shakes.